Now everyone, the Legend of Zelda series is probably one of the most popular and most well-known video game franchises of all time, and there's good reason for that. It's an adventure-based game series and really focuses on freedom and exploration. It's filled to the brim with puzzles and monsters, and really interesting characters. And everyone, today we'll be looking at one of the most interesting things, the land that the Legend of Zelda takes place in, known as Hyrule. We'll be looking at where Hyrule could possibly take place in the real world in real life. We'll be looking at if Shigeru Miyamoto and Eiji Aonuma could have got any inspiration from any real life places. So everyone, how we will be breaking this down is looking at weather patterns, topographic layouts, and certain things like that. Even culture and different types of food, all the way delving down to certain legends that certain cultures have all around the world. So everyone, without further ado, let's get started. Now everyone, at this year's E3, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel was confirmed to be in development, and oh my gosh, does it look amazing. It had all of us Zelda fans going absolutely crazy. So everyone, I knew that I had to get this theory out before the next Breath of the Wild sequel trailer was released, which is probably going to be at the next E3. So I want to look at all the fruits and vegetables that are native to Hyrule and also native to other places in the real world in real life. So everyone, without further ado, let's get started. Now everyone, the first thing we're going to be doing is looking at all the fruits and vegetables that are native to Hyrule and also native to other places in the real world in real life. So in order to do that, we're going to have to pull out the Zelda Encyclopedia. So, let's pull out the Zelda Encyclopedia. So, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so everyone, as you can see right here, we have our beautiful Zelda Encyclopedia. I have a hard time not getting distracted by all the other beautiful things on the pages. But anyways, everyone, if you would like to head to page 74 in your own Zelda Encyclopedia and look at everything yourself, that would be great. Only if you want to. I'm not compelling you. Okay? Okay, you don't have to do it, okay? Okay? Okay, cool. Glad we made that through. So, as we can see, we have pumpkins right here. And, it says that they are the most plentiful and popular in all of Hyrule. As you can see right here, it says, while a great many of vegetables are cultivated in Hyrule, pumpkins are by far the most plentiful and popular. Grown in patches from the Sky Era on, pumpkins are used as a primary ingredient in soup. The great spirit Levias loves pumpkin soup, and people present it to him as an offering in the Twilight Era. Ordon Village is famous for their Ordon pumpkin that shares its name. So, as we can see, pumpkins, I'm assuming, are probably native to Hyrule since they were seen in Skyward Sword, which is the first game in the timeline. So, if we're going, if we're gonna take that path, then we should probably look at where pumpkins are native to, as well as apples. It says that apples are by far the most plentiful and popular fruit. Right there, as you can see. Most popular and plentiful. So, I need lotion. Anyways, everyone, we are going to head on to the recording room and do some more recording. Actually, that's not the recording room. That is my wall. That is my recording room. This is my recording room. That is the closet, which is my recording room. But actually, I get pretty good sound quality in there with my mics and computers and all. Actually, I don't use that much stuff. But, yeah. So, let's never see the light of day. Ever. Again. So, yeah, let's start recording. So everyone, there are two things on this list, and those two things are apples and pumpkins. And a lot of people might be asking, where are apples native to? Well, apples are native to a handful of places, pretty much everywhere, except for the North Pole and South Pole and a few other places. They're native to North America, Europe, even Asia, and a handful of other locations. But there is one really interesting thing on this list, and that's pumpkins. And a lot of people might be asking, where exactly are pumpkins native to? And it may come as a surprise to you, but pumpkins are not native to Asia, they are not native to Africa, they aren't even native to Europe. The only place that pumpkins are native to, and only, is North America. And they are only native to North America. They weren't introduced to Europe or Asia or any of these other places until after the arrival of Columbus. And that is crazy. So, before a lot of you people go start typing down in the comments saying, okay, Hyrule definitely does not take place in North America. Well, let's take a real quick stroll around North America and see what we can dig up and find before we head off to these other locations. So, really quickly, let's just take a real quick walk around North America.
Now, as you can see here, I have a map of the United States of America. And, yes, it is the land of the free and home of the brave. But anywho, how this is going to be working out is I'm going to be narrowing down states until we only have a few states left to work with. So, yeah, let's get to that, shall we? So, the first thing I wanted to point out is Hyrule has a coast. It has had a coast in every single game. So, sadly, I'm going to have to exclude all of the states that don't have a coast. And just like that, we have already excluded a whole ton of states just because they didn't have a coast. Next thing is the East Coast. I wanted to look at the East Coast because the only problem that the East Coast has is that it has no desert. Now, yes, Florida may be hot, but it's just not dry enough. It's way too humid. It has no desert whatsoever. So sadly, I'm going to have to exclude the East Coast. And Texas, I'm sadly going to have to be excluding because of this reason. Texas is just too dry and too big, and honestly, yes, it does have forests and certain things like that, but it just doesn't fit Hyrule. I feel like you can agree with me on a whole ton of reasons. It just doesn't fit Hyrule, so sadly I'm going to have to exclude it. But I mean, look at this. Oregon, California, and Washington, the three hippie states. The three states with every single kind of weirdo you can find. Now, everyone, I know what you're saying down in the comment section below. No, it can't be California, Washington, or Oregon. But let me tell you this. There is going to be so much evidence later on in this video that your mind will be absolutely blown. You will not believe what I will tell you. But everyone, the only problem here is that we have 3 states, not 1. We don't have 1 state that we can work on, we have 3. So, we're going to have to keep on narrowing these states down until we get to 1. So, first of all, let's look at Washington. Washington, it would be a great state, but the only problem is it's just too wet, too cold. And as we see in Breath of the Wild, there are tropics. It has palm trees and a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's fairly warm. Hyrule is fairly warm. And Washington, it just doesn't fit. So sadly, I will have to be excluding Washington. But everyone, now we're down to these 2 states. Which one will crown itself as Hyrule? Which one will be being delved into and being researched about? Well, I must say, it's Oregon. California, yes, it would be a great state, but honestly, it's too hot. It barely gets any rain. Barely any rain at all, especially Southern California. And I just really don't see Hyrule becoming a place of movie stars and actors and actresses. I just really don't see it. So, sadly, I will be having to exclude California for those reasons. It just doesn't fit, and the topographical design doesn't even fit. So, I will be excluding California for those reasons. But everyone, here we are, Oregon. Now, I know a lot of you might be saying, no, it is 100% not Oregon, but let me tell you guys, it is perfect. It is absolutely perfect. It has everything, delving down to the culture, the food of the natives, and even the monsters of the natives, even the weather patterns and topographical designs. But everyone, I can't just say that it's Oregon and leave you there. So I will have to be delving in and telling you all the evidence that I've collected ever since 2018. Yes, I have been doing this theory since 2018. But everyone, without further ado, let's get started.
Now, everyone, as you can see, I have a side-by-side comparison of Hyrule and Oregon. But the only problem is that Hyrule has an east coast, as for Oregon has a west coast. Well, how I'm going to be fixing this is I'm going to be flipping Oregon upside down. And it's not just the coasts that match up when I flip Oregon upside down. Everything seems to match up when I flip Oregon upside down. In doing so, the topographic layout seems to match up. The weather patterns seem to match up. Even the temperature patterns seem to match up perfectly. The topographic layout seems to match up the absolute most, even the weather patterns. So I will be, for the rest of the video, be flipping Oregon upside down. So let me just really quickly flip Oregon upside down. So now as you see, I have flipped Oregon upside down, but you may be saying, okay, you've already kind of bent the rules, what are we going to be doing now? Well, don't worry, there are no more rules being bent. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking straight into the 4 main locations of Hyrule. And what I mean by that is the 4 main locations in Breath of the Wild. There is the Zora's Domain, there is Death Mountain, Lake Totori, and the Gerudo Desert. So I'm going to be looking into those 4 areas and seeing exactly where they could be in Oregon. And let me just tell you, it is going to be absolutely mind-blowing when I tell you these locations and their similarities. And I will even be having a bonus location at the end. And once I'm done with that, I will be heading on to more culture and certain things like that. Certain legends, certain food, certain fruits and vegetables that are native to the area, and other things like that, as well as history. So without further ado, let's delve right into this theory. So everyone, before I start finagling and delving into this wonderful theory, I just wanted to, if you notice a change in sound quality, I wanted to apologize for that, because the reason behind that is because I switched mics. So sorry about that if you noticed that the earlier bit of the video had better sound quality, and this has a little bit worse sound quality, but the reason behind that is just because I switched mics. So anyway, that's the reason behind it. If you noticed a change in sound quality, sorry about that. But yeah, anyhow, without further ado, let's discuss what is right in front of your eyes. Now, what is right in front of your eyes is a map of Hyrule and Oregon, of course, but as you can see, I have circled Death Mountain, and as well as where Death Mountain would be located in Oregon. And once we check there, where Death Mountain should be located in Oregon, your mind will be absolutely blown, because the similarities are just too similar. It is absolutely insane of what you will find. It is when I tell you what this is, your mind will be absolutely blown. But I should probably stop talking and actually tell you what is there. So without further ado, let's check out this little area, shall we? Now, what is in this area is a place known as Crater Lake, a giant lake that is 286.29 square miles. It is a giant lake, but you might be asking me, why are you showing me a giant lake instead of a giant active volcano? How is this relevant to Death Mountain, the giant active volcano? Well, the reason is because around several thousand years ago, this actually used to be a giant active volcano that was 12,000 feet high. And you might be asking how. Well, this was originally a giant active volcano, and it collapsed because of an earthquake. Originally, this was the highest peak in Oregon, just like Death Mountain being the highest peak in Hyrule. And you might be saying, well, it collapsed, yes, but Death Mountain hasn't collapsed. But, you see, that's the thing. Death Mountain hasn't collapsed. Yet. You see, I think that Death Mountain could possibly collapse later in the future. I don't really know what Zelda game, but it could possibly collapse in, the Breath of the Wild sequel. It could possibly even collapse then. And you may be saying, well, what do you have? What reasons do you have? Do you have any evidence? Well, no, not necessarily. It technically just comes down to speculation and theories on why it will collapse or when it will collapse. And you might be asking, okay, well, what's your theory? What's your speculation? Well, here's the thing. In the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, we can actually see what seems to be some sort of mechanical legs of some sort. And I did not discover this. This was actually discovered by a YouTuber named Mass Nintendo Bandit. All credit goes to him. But the thing is, we see things rising, specifically the castle rising. But in creating a champion, the art concept work for Breath of the Wild, we see what seems to be Death Mountain, with a strange figure on top that seems to be Ganondorf. And you might be saying, okay, well, what does this mean? Well, yes, Death Mountain is rising, but what is it leaving behind? Well, as you can see, it's leaving behind a giant crater. And that's really interesting. I mean, that's about as strong evidence as I can get. But I just thought it was really interesting. I mean, possibly in the Breath of the Wild sequel, it could go down many ways of how Death Mountain will end up a crater, just like Crater Lake. Death Mountain could possibly rise up into the sky, never to return, and fall somewhere. Or it could rise up into the sky and then fall back down, and create a crater and puncture the earth, filling the crater with a whole bunch of water. Or it could be because of Vah Rudania. You see, before the Breath of the Wild sequel trailer came out, I thought that Death Mountain would collapse because of Vah Rudania. Now, Vah Rudania is really heavy. Or I don't necessarily know that it's really heavy, but Vah Rudania is massive. Almost as big as the mountain. So, I'm kind of assuming that Vah Rudania is extremely heavy. And honestly, a normal volcano shouldn't be able to support this amount of weight. And a normal volcano could not support this amount of weight. Especially how Death Mountain is kind of hollowed out inside. Well, I mean, it just couldn't support, no normal volcano could support Vah Rudania on top of it. And Vah Rudania, as you see, is almost as big as the volcano. Vah Rudania is massive. I mean, this is originally why I thought Death Mountain would collapse. I thought it was because of Vah Rudania's weight. I mean, we also see in Breath of the Wild, because Vah Rudania is stomping on it, we see that giant boulders are erupting from the volcano, fiery boulders, and preventing tourists from coming in, and it has really affected the business up at Death Mountain, because a whole bunch of that kind of stuff is happening. But, I mean, if Death Mountain did collapse, imagine the tragedies. Not only all the deaths that would happen because of Death Mountain collapsing, possibly in Breath of the Wild too, but also the Zelda fans. Every single Zelda fan would be very sad. I would be very sad. Every Zelda fan would be heartbroken. Because, I mean, Death Mountain has been around ever since Ocarina of Time. And, I mean, honestly, it would be such a tragedy for Death Mountain to collapse. It would be really sad. And all the tragedies that would happen, and all the deaths that would happen because of, Death Mountain collapsing. I really don't have much more evidence or speculation, but really, all we have to do now is wait. Okay, now after checking out where Death Mountain would be in Oregon, it's time to move on to Zora's Domain. So, as you can see, I have circled where the Zora's Domain would be in Oregon. So right now, we just have to go over there and check out what's over there. And again, your mind will be absolutely blown of what is over there. It's quite interesting of how everything matches up. So without further ado, let's go check out where the Zora's Domain would be located in Oregon. Now, what is in this area is quite interesting, and what is in this area is a large group of waterfalls. There are a whole ton of waterfalls, and this one that you see on screen is one of the many waterfalls that are located in this area. This one honestly has to be my favorite because, I don't know, it's just so beautiful, and all the overgrowth, especially with the geometric shapes in the rock, as you can see, and the beautiful blue water. But anyways, the whole entire thing is that there are a whole ton of waterfalls here. This is another one of the waterfalls that you can see on screen, but basically, you may be asking, well, what do the waterfalls have to do with Zora's Domain? What are their significance? Well, the waterfalls in Zora's Domain, there are a whole ton of waterfalls in Zora's Domain, and in fact, most of the waterfalls in Hyrule are in Zora's Domain. It has a whole ton of waterfalls, and especially even in the Alcala region. But you may be saying, okay, well, is there anything else that relates to Zora's Domain? Well, basically, the rocky terrain is quite interesting in this area. There's a whole ton of rocky terrain and things like that. Even in this waterfall right here, which is the tallest waterfall in Oregon, the one that you see on screen right now, which is 272 feet. It looks kind of like the rocky terrain or the rocky cliffs that you could see when you look up in Zora's Domain. But honestly, it does match Zora's Domain really well. I mean, with the rocky terrain, the rivers, the waterfalls, and even the overgrowth and some of the plants there match quite well. And it's quite interesting to see the trees in Zora's Domain. The trees in Zora's Domain kind of match the ones that are in the area where Zora's Domain should be located in Oregon. The trees kind of match as well, you know, kind of thin pine needles, you know, and, you know, kind of like pine trees almost, but like, you know, it's quite interesting, you know, the trees even kind of match up. But there is one thing that was quite interesting, and that was the, kind of the coral that you can see on screen right there in Zora's Domain, the coral that, grows, you know, in the air, you know, instead of, like, underwater, you know, it grows on land instead, which is, I honestly have no explanation for that. The coral seems to be made up, or, you know, something that doesn't actually exist, but honestly, it does kind of match the Zora's Domain. You know, the waterfalls, the rocky terrain, even the kind of trees there, and the overgrowth and certain things like that. It's quite stunning there, honestly, as well as Zora's Domain is quite stunning. They share quite a couple of things in common, and it's and the areas are quite similar, with the overgrowth, types of plants and trees and waterfalls and rivers and other things like that. But anyways, I feel like we've dabbled enough in Zora's Domain, and we should probably head on to another area to look at. So without further ado, let's look at another area. Now, we're going to be taking a look at Lake Totori, and again, your minds will be absolutely blown. Now, the Rito Settlement, or Lake Totori, we will be looking at, and as you can see, I have circled it on the map of Oregon where Lake Totori, or the Rito Settlement, would be located in Oregon. And again, everyone, your minds will be absolutely blown. It is so interesting about how many, you know, similarities there are with Hyrule and Oregon. But anyways, we should probably take a real quick look at Lake Totori and where it would be located in Oregon. So as you can see right here, this is a place known as Malheur Lake. Not Mount Here, Malheur. But anyways, this area is very interesting because it has birds. This is the #1 spot out of all the spots in Oregon. This is the #1 spot for birds to go in Oregon, and I thought it was quite interesting because the Rito are birds, so I thought that was quite interesting. Now, it's not necessarily evidence, but I did think that it was quite interesting, you know, a quite interesting little tidbit. But the other thing is that Malheur Lake and Lake Totori, and as well as Hyrule Plunge, almost are exactly identical when it comes to shape. They are almost exactly identical. It is honestly quite interesting. And I mean, it comes down to everything. The trees, the rock, and everything here at this area, this location. Everything almost matches perfectly. The trees, the forest, and everything. And I also even found out that behind Malheur Lake is actually some mountains. Not just any normal, regular old mountains, very, very cold mountains, especially in the winter. This area is known for getting very, very cold. But anyways, you know, just like the Hebra Mountains in Breath of the Wild. But anyways, I feel like we've dabbled enough in Lake Totori, or the Rito Settlement, so without further ado, I think we're going to be heading on to the Garuda Desert. So without further ado, let's move on. So everyone, as I said, we will be moving on to the Garuda Desert, and again, everyone, what is in this area will absolutely shock you. It is amazing of how much Oregon and Hyrule both match up. But anyways, I should probably stop talking and actually show you what is over there. But I mean, man, it's insane how all of this, like, matches up so well. But anyways, without further ado, let's get started. So what is actually in this area is some desert, and, you know, I mean, it's actually pretty insane that, like, in this exact same location is desert, and a desert that kind of resembles the Gerudo Desert, you know, with sand, sandstone, all of this other stuff, all of this stuff that is in Breath of the Wild's Gerudo Desert, and other Gerudo Desert from other games that is actually in this Gerudo Desert, and I mean, in this desert in Oregon, and I mean, like, people here this is known for a very good place to start climbing because it's sandstone and it's quite rough, so you can climb it quite easily. And as you can see, there are a whole bunch of people actually climbing. But I mean, oh my goodness, this is absolutely breathtaking. All of this sandstone and all these sandstone hills, just like in like the Gerudo Highlands. It looks quite similar, and it can also get very cold as well, but this desert actually can get over 100 degrees. But the really high sandstone peaks can get very, very cold as well, just like the Gerudo Highlands. But anyways, I feel like we've dabbled enough in the Gerudo Desert, and everyone, it's time for the bonus. It is time for the bonus area. But, I mean, Gerudo Desert, there isn't much to show you, but there is a desert, and both deserts actually resemble each other. They're quite similar and quite identical to each other. But anyways, everyone, it's time for the bonus area. So without further ado, let's go see where this bonus area is. Now everyone, as you see, I've circled none other than the Lost Woods. And everyone, your minds will be absolutely blown of what is actually in Oregon. Your minds will be blown of what is actually over here. But everyone, I should probably just stop talking and show you what is over in this area. So everyone, without further ado, let's get started and let me show you where Lost Woods would be located in Oregon. So in this area is some forest, and there's nothing weird about that because, I mean, most of Oregon is forest and other certain things. But it really comes down to the name. Now, what we're looking at is the Lost Woods, right? Well, it's not called the Lost Woods, but this area of forest is actually called the Lost Forest. The Lost Forest in Oregon. And everyone, that absolutely blew my mind when I found that out. And I mean, even the trees kind of resemble. The ones from Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, in the Lost Woods, actually resemble the ones in the Lost Forest, Oregon. But not so much in the ones from Breath of the Wild, kind of in the Korok Forest. There are some trees in the Korok Forest that are in the Lost Forest in Oregon. But everyone, it's not just the trees and the name that it comes down to. This forest is actually known for people getting lost in it. And yes, some people do get lost in other forests across Oregon. But this one is quite interesting because some were found dead, some alive, and some people never even found.
Hundreds of people are reported missing in national parks and forests.
To Oregon State Police, there are 41 missing children in Oregon.
And right here in Oregon, whether dead or alive, he says it's only 1 or 2% of the missions they launch. The search and rescue coordinator in cases dead or
So everyone, how did you like my little spooky or creepy, whatever you want to call it, little clip? Was I forcing it? Was I forcing the creepiness? Was I forcing the spookiness? Was I trying too hard to be creepy? Spoopy, whatever you want to call it? Anyways, I have no idea. But anyways, we should probably be moving on with the theory. Basically, I have already covered topographic design, and now I want to look into the culture of the natives, the foods of the natives, the certain things that are native to the area, the weather patterns, and certain things like that. So, basically, a huge thing that might be on your mind right now is, well, the Native Americans are redskins. They aren't white. They aren't Asian and certain things like that. Now, yes, there were Native American-looking people in the Legend of Zelda series, but not as much as European and Asian and certain things like that. But yes, I know that, but thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years ago, there was a giant ice bridge, and this ice bridge actually freezes over. Basically, this part of the ocean actually freezes over in the winter, connecting Siberia and Alaska. In very cold winters, you can actually walk across this area, or so I've heard. You can actually walk across this area when it gets really cold, especially in like the winter and stuff. But basically, people from Europe, China, Taiwan, Mongolia, India, all of these peoples from these areas actually were the first peoples in North America. And you may be saying, wait, how is this even possible? Well, basically their DNA started breaking down when they were repopulating and formed eventually, as we know today, the Native Americans. But everyone, once they arrived in Alaska, they started moving south. They started moving into Western America, Western North America, Eastern North America. They started heading to Mexico and even South America. And this is just very interesting because we see most European and Asian influence first. But in Breath of the Wild, we see something interesting. We see a mysterious tribe known as the Zonai. And the Zonai, literally in Japanese, I believe translates to Tribe of Mystery. If I'm slightly wrong on that, please tell me. I would like to know what it actually means, but I think I'm correct on that bit. But anyways, everyone, basically the Zonai are a mysterious tribe, and in the Breath of the Wild 2 sequel, we can obviously see that they are going to be a huge part in the Breath of the Wild 2 sequel. In the Breath of the Wild 2 sequel trailer, we can actually see a whole ton of Zonai structures and certain things like that. But you may be saying, okay, what does this have to do with the Native Americans and certain things like that? Well, as I told you, that the Europeans and Asians and all of them started repopulating, and eventually their DNA broke down and eventually formed the Native Americans. Well, yes, but in earlier games we see more, in like Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time, we see more European influence and Asian influence. And then in Breath of the Wild, we see the Zonai. I matched all of the Zonai structures and tried to come up with what these structures matched. And the structures that the culture that these structures match are not Japanese. They are not European. They are not Indians from India. They are not Thai. They are not any of these things. They aren't even African. The only thing that these structures actually match, like culture-wise, is the Aztecs and the Mayans. I think that eventually all of the people in Breath of the Wild or in the Zelda past, we see more European influence, but in Breath of the Wild we start to see a Native American, Aztec/Mayan influence. So I think that possibly we will be seeing more Zonai and more Native American themes in the future. But everyone, we are not done talking about the Zonai, because we can obviously see in the Breath of the Wild sequel trailer that the Zonai will be a huge part in the Breath of the Wild sequel. And we can obviously see, and there is no denying it whatsoever, that the Zonai were heavily based off of the Aztec, Mayan, and Native Americans. There is absolutely no denying. Their carvings and their paintings seem to match up perfectly with the Zonai. They seem to match up perfectly, and there is absolutely no denying it whatsoever. It makes so much sense. It comes down to the swirls even. The swirls that the Zonai use. The Aztecs, Mayans, and Native Americans all use swirls in their pottery, carvings, and paintings. It makes so much sense, because all of this makes so much sense. All of it does, and there's no denying that they actually got inspiration from the Mayans, Aztec, and Native Americans. I mean, even look right here. This clip that's going to come up on screen right here. Look at this, and this in the Breath of the Wild 2 sequel trailer. I mean, there is no denying it. There is no denying it whatsoever. All of the patterns match up. Everything matches up. The stone carvings of the Zonai match up. All of it matches up absolutely perfectly. All of it. All of the stuff that we see in the Breath of the Wild sequel trailer. All of it matches up. And everyone, there is absolutely so much evidence that I can't even talk about in this video today, because it would make the video way too long. Everyone, there is so much to go over. When it comes down to the symbols, all of the hidden references, all of the stuff, it just makes so much sense. It just immediately clicks. It just clicks. It just fits in perfectly like a puzzle piece. But everyone, I'm done talking about the Zonai, but I feel like we should probably be moving on to another topic. So without further ado, let's progress in this theory. So, oh my goodness, everyone, after that Zonai bit, oh my goodness, I'm so hyped and whoa, theorist-like. But anyways, everyone, Yeah, we're gonna be looking at fruits and vegetables that are native to Hyrule and also native to Oregon, but, yeah, we will be cutting out all the mushrooms and saffron, and certain things like that, but, because they aren't real. But anyways, apples. Apples are not native to North America. Apples were introduced to North America by colonists in the 17th century, and the first apple orchard on the North American continent was planted in Boston City by Reverend William Blackstone in 1625. The only apples native to North America are crab apples, which are considered common apples. Yeah, ain't that crazy, because in the Zelda Encyclopedia and also in the description for apples in Breath of the Wild, it is said that they are common, which is quite interesting. But yeah, anyways, the only difference between crab apples and apples are basically nothing. It's just that some crab apples look more interesting than actually apples, because some actually have a pink inside instead of a white interior, which is quite interesting. But yeah, there are plenty of different varieties of crab apples. But anyways, durian. Durian is not native to North America, but it can be grown in North America. In fact, there are some durians even growing in Portland, in Oregon right now. Watermelons. Watermelons are not native to North America. As surprising as it may be, they are not. But other melons are native to North America. And it's interesting because in the side quest Mystery Polluter, we can actually see that the inside of a hydromelon is orange, not red like an actual watermelon. And so I'm thinking that they could possibly be a hybrid in between other melons. But yeah, spicy peppers. Everyone's spicy peppers are definitely native to North America. In fact, some of the peppers like habaneros and jalapenos are actually originated in North America. Anyways, volt fruit, I'm assuming, is either dragon fruit or cactus fruit. It's kind of hard to tell because they both grow on cactuses, but dragon fruit is native to Central America and grown throughout the subtropical and tropical parts of China, Israel, Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, and I cannot pronounce the last one. In fact, I probably pronounced Malaysia wrong. But yeah, sorry about that. But anyways, yes, dragon fruit is native to North America. It's quite surprising. And lotus, you may be saying, oh, I know this one. Lotus isn't native to North America. Think again, everyone. Think again. Nelumbo lutea is a species of flowering plant in the family of I can't pronounce that. Anyways, common names include American lotus, yellow lotus, water chinquapie, and voli. It is native to North America. Ain't that interesting? Because it is native to North America. Isn't that just fantastic? Anyways, everyone, this is practically lotus. It is in the lotus family, and it is lotus. So, yeah, ain't that interesting? It's just a slightly different variety of lotus. So that's actually quite interesting. I didn't actually think that lotus was native to North America until I found out. Oh, wait, it is! So, yeah, that bit's quite interesting. On to the next bit. Bananas. Bananas are not native to North America, as you probably assumed. But, everyone, interesting thing is that in North America and South American, Native American, a lot of American, tombs, they actually found banana leaves and bananas. Isn't that interesting? I read this on an article on the internet. It was a very old article, but it was reposted on the internet. It was on an old newspaper, but anyways, bananas are actually native to North America. Isn't that interesting? People have done more research into this, and yeah, they actually found banana leaves in these tombs, and people are still finding them in tombs of Native Americans. So yeah, it's quite interesting. So some people think that bananas were native to North America, or they could have possibly just been simply brought over by Polynesians or Asians or something. But yeah, radishes. Radishes are not native to North America. As surprising as it may seem, radishes aren't native to North America. But they have been assumed to be brought over by the Asians and Europeans and people like that when they came over on the land of Beringia, or Beringia, I don't know, but yeah. But anyways, yeah, it's quite interesting. But then next thing is carrots. Surprising as it may seem, carrots are not actually native to North America. No, they aren't actually, but it has been assumed, and that they were actually brought over on the land of Beringia, or Beringia, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that's honestly quite interesting. But and there are other types of carrots in North America. They just aren't actually common carrots, you know. They're quite thinner and, you know, other things like that. Anyways, pumpkins. I already told you, yes, pumpkins are native to North America. Quite interesting, and only native to North America. Honey. You may be saying, oh, I know this one. Honeybees are not native to North America. Well, think again. because, yeah, it's always been assumed that honeybees are not native to North America, until a recent discovery found a single fossil of a native North American honeybee in the Stewart Valley Basin in west central Nevada. So, yes, in fact, honeybees are native to North America. Isn't that just absolutely insane? I mean, I didn't even know that. I mean, I thought that they weren't native to North America, but apparently they are native to North America. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, yeah, it's quite interesting. So yes, honey is much like honey is in North America. So yeah, honeybees are native to North America. But everyone, on to the next thing, and I know you're going to love this: weather patterns. I mean, ain't that just great? Weather patterns. It's just gonna be so fun. I love weather patterns. They're so fun. But yeah, we're gonna be discussing weather patterns. So let's look at the weather patterns of Hyrule and also the weather patterns of Oregon. So yeah, this is gonna be very fun, and you're also going to be very astonished about what I found. So yeah, without further ado, let's look at these beautiful weather patterns, shall we? Now, everyone, when it comes down to the weather patterns of Hyrule and Oregon, it actually becomes quite interesting, because, basically, my work has already been done for me, because there's actually a theory that was done by the game theorists, called Zelda's insane weather problem, and they're basically talking about Breath of the Wild and the insane weather problem and all the different stuff, like discovering the weather patterns and what Hyrule is known as. But I was watching their theory, and they pretty much did all my work for me for the weather pattern part of this video, because he was talking about how he was basically talking about Hyrule and like what it would be in real life, like what kind of weather patterns it has, and he like did a whole entire thing. He went out to all of the areas, and he went out and measured their rainfall and all this different stuff. But everyone, what he found out is that Hyrule is it's known as a temperate rainforest, and he flashed a picture of this on screen, and he actually showed exactly where across the world temperate rainforests are, across the world. And there is, basically all of Japan, all of New Zealand, a small chunk of Australia, a very, very small chunk of Africa, a very, very little bit of Europe, some in South America. But what do we see in North America? We see Alaska, Yukon, Washington, Oregon, and California. These are all what are known as temperate rainforests, and it's quite interesting because Oregon is actually on this list. Oregon has the exact same weather pattern, weather area as Oregon. And I even checked in all the areas myself and looked at their temperatures and other certain things and details about this. I did a whole thing on this. I went all across Breath of the Wild and did a whole bunch of stuff, trying to find out, what, like, all the temperatures and everything, like, how they would match in Oregon, and they do. They, in fact, do match very, very, very much so. It's, quite interesting, but everyone, I mean, really, all of these are known as temperate rainforests, and it's very, very interesting. But everyone, in his video, he also mentioned another thing. He said that with all of the rain and sunlight that they get in Hyrule, it should look like a whole ton more trees. They should have a whole ton more trees.
The only thing that makes NGDS here is, like, why is there grass everywhere? This place should be, like, riddled with trees. With 12 hours a day of sunlight, huge amounts of water, Hyrule's huge plains should look more like Fangorn than Prairie Home Companion. Although, given the frame rate issues that I have in Korok Forest, I guess I can forgive Nintendo for this.
But I mean, everyone, he is right about that whole entire Korok Forest bit, with all that lag and everything. It just, the Switch just couldn't support it, even if they did want to, create most of Hyrule thick forest and, only some of it, grassy plains. The Switch just couldn't support that. It would be way too much on the Switch. which is another excuse for the Switch Pro, am I right? No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, it would be interesting to see the Switch Pro come out. But, anyways, back to the theory bit. But yeah, I mean, it is quite interesting how Oregon is actually what's known as a temperate rainforest, as for Hyrule is what is known as a temperate rainforest. But, yeah, I mean, Oregon does have a whole ton of forest, but even if Nintendo wanted to put a whole ton of forest in Hyrule, they couldn't necessarily do it because this should be beyond their capabilities, or I should say, it's beyond the Switch's capabilities. But not a Switch Pro. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, but you may be saying, all of you may be saying, okay, yeah, Freeze, that's a pretty darn good theory, but, where do you live? Well, I live in a place called Oregon. And you may be saying, wait, what? Why would you You literally just led me into a trap, didn't you? Now, so you're just telling us that it takes place where you live. Well, yes, I am saying that, but the whole entire thing on how this started out, like how I actually started doing this theory, it was originally just a joke between me and my friends. We were all talking about how much Oregon, like, resembled Hyrule, temperature and, you know, and all that different types of stuff, and then we'd go to certain locations and be like, oh my goodness, this looks like this from that place, you know, and certain things like that. But then I looked at a map of Oregon, and then I started studying the topographic layout of Oregon, and then I was like, you know what this kind of reminds me of? When you flip it upside down, it looks like Hyrule. Over here is volcanic regions, over here is like deserty regions, and all of this stuff. It's just very, very interesting. But yeah, everyone, you know, I mean, it was very, very interesting just to see that. But that is how it all started. It was originally just a joke between me and my friends, and we were just calling Oregon Hyrule for quite some time. But yeah, so yeah, everyone, I guess that's the end of the theory. So I'll see you next time. Bye. So yeah, everyone, I guess that's the end of the theory. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video, and please don't forget to subscribe as well as click that bell notification button. That way you'll be alerted if I post any sort of new content, especially theory videos or cooking videos if you're into that kind of stuff. Also, leave a comment down in the comment section below telling me what you thought about this theory, and where you think Hyrule takes place in real life, as well as leave a dislike or leave a like on this video. I mean, really whatever what you're feeling up to. But yeah, I mean, all of you might be saying, Freeze, what's wrong with you? I mean, like, why have you not been posting? Why have you, like, your last video was the Monster Extract video, and that was like 2 months ago. Why have you not been posting? Well, the reason because of that is because I have been very hard at work on this theory, and, you know, collecting evidence and building up the theory, and editing videos and cooking videos, like theory videos and cooking videos. Theory videos may take much longer. A cooking video could take like up to a day, and then a theory video could take up to a month or a week. It really depends on how short, how short the video is. This video was like a couple of, like, probably about 2 months. But yeah, everyone, you may be saying, okay, what's so special about the 20th? Why are you posting this video specifically on the 20th? And why do you have your channel art out on the 20th? Oh yeah, guys, we have our channel art out. I'm really happy about that. I had a really fun time drawing it. It was very fun, but yeah, we finally got our channel art out. So yeah, but anyways, you might be saying, why are these two special things out on the 20th? Well, it's because it's this channel's 1 year anniversary, and I mean, whoa, I mean, everyone, this channel has been on YouTube for 1 year. I mean, everyone, come on, that's just great. But I mean, we've been on YouTube 1 year, and we made a whole ton of advances in our editing skills and certain things like that. But yeah, I feel like I still could work on my editing skills a little bit. But yeah, we were definitely advancing. So yeah, everyone, again, thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And but yeah, everyone, you may be saying, well, when are you going to be posting your next cooking video? And the answer to that is, I don't really know when, but it's probably going to be around February. I will have some guest stars coming on this channel on February, so that's going to be very, very, very fun. So yeah, I'm going to have some cooking videos come out in February, and that's probably going to be the next time you see any video. Maybe in maybe this month, maybe in January, but that's probably very unlikely, considering my schedule and things like that. But yeah, everyone, yeah, again, thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment down in the comment section below telling me what you thought about this theory, and you know, where you think Hyrule is in real life. And everyone, yeah, again, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time on Niqht Productions. Bye!